why they're involved. They're just trying to get him. Biden never really takes his years of experience and makes it an asset. It's used as a liability now against him. It's used as, well, only somebody has 53 years in Washington could be 80. Only somebody who has been as a swamp creature has been there too long. So it's almost a liability instead of an asset. But what you say does bring us to an important point. It's not a small point. There could be a third-party candidate. And I'm not talking about no labels and all of that and getting somebody from the United States Senate. How are they not part of the swamp? I'm saying that there may be a crypto or a tech billionaire we're not even thinking of who thinks this is just going to be fun. I could drop a couple $100 million. I mean, Michael Bloomberg spent over $1 billion to let Elizabeth Warren disembowel him in 23 seconds in a debate with the most predictable question ever. So, sure, what's $1 billion between friends when you have so much of it? I think somebody could do that, and they could get themselves on the ballot, and they could be the spoiler. So the question is, does that person get enough to win? Does that person help Trump? Does that person help Biden? We don't know yet. The real example I'm looking at is Ross Perot in 1992. Ross Perot got 19% of the vote. He got 0% of the delegates, zero. Yeah. Bill Clinton got 45% of the vote, and he got 68.8% of the delegates. I mean, that's just an incredible fact pattern to think about. And dethroning a sitting president who had won Reagan's third term, Herbert Walker Bush 41. And sure, we can go back and look at the strategy. I'm the comeback kid. It's youth and energy, lying on 60 Minutes. He and his wife lying on 60 Minutes about adultery and the whole thing. But practically speaking, again, remember, I'm the math girl. Mathematically, scientifically, to get 19% of the popular vote if you're Perot and 0 delegates is pretty remarkable. And then if you're Clinton, you get 45%, you're 5%, you're 6% under a clear majority, and you have 2/3 of the delegates. It's a big deal. So sure, that can happen again.
And that third-party candidate, I don't think is as far-fetched as we would normally think. I mean, you have to go back to Perot, but I think the environment almost calls out for it right now. And I think that's why there's so much chatter about it. Let me ask you this. Besides the presidential, do you see a landscape change one way or the other? Do you think it's a House, Senate, Democratic, Republican, or you think it's going to be close and marginal one way or the other?
Probably be close, but close also can mean a couple of seats difference in the Senate, not just one as we have now. And there are some vulnerable Democrats up for re-election in 2024. The Senate map in 2022 was not favorable to Republicans. It'll be much more favorable this time. Each party has their time in the barrel. And this time it's better for Republicans. Democrats are defending Senate seats in big Trump states like Ohio, where he won twice by 8%, and where he helped J.D. Vance get elected to Senate this last time. Governor DeWine was just reelected by double digits after winning barely 4 years earlier. So in Ohio, you've got Sherrod Brown. He's basically the last Democrat standing there, and he's going to be challenged by a guy named Bernie Moreno, born in Colombia, a very successful businessman, maybe some other Republicans running. I think that's a tough race for the Democrats. John Tester has to defend his seat in Montana. And you've got Bob Casey Jr. defending his seat in Pennsylvania. Now, he has been reelected the last few times by double digits, but I don't think he's ever really had major competition. And somebody who's willing to pierce this nonsense presumption that Casey is some kind of moderate. No, he's not. He votes with the rest of them 95% of the time. And all three of the Democratic senators I just mentioned to you, Sherrod Brown in Ohio, Bob Casey Jr., whose father, Bob Casey Sr., was excommunicated, was completely eliminated, denied entry to the Democratic National Convention in 1992, even though he was the sitting governor of Pennsylvania because he was pro-life. And then John Tester, Montana. 3 good examples. All those guys voted against something called the Infant Born Alive Protection Act. Now, give me a break. Infant Born Alive Protection, sometimes you don't know what these laws are. Infant Born Alive Protection Act tells you exactly what you're doing. The infant has survived an abortion. They're born alive. don't you think that we should be administering the basic standard of care that medical professionals do day in and day out as part of their oath, as part of their life's calling? And that's something that a lot of the majority of pro-choicers believe is legitimate, to administer basic care. So it's even showing them as extreme on things beyond the obvious, like the Inflation Reduction Act, or voting against qualified people like Amy Coney Barrett, being against school choice for the inner cities. I think issues like that, that's a little bit of culture war, but it's a lot of just common sense and science also. So you could see that. And then in the House, look, the Republicans have it on a razor's edge. New York was a place where they were able to pick up a number of seats, so the Democrats are very smartly and strategically targeting New York already as a place to win back, claw back some of those freshman seats, Andrew. But the answer to your question also comes down to an X factor that you and I can't predict. How many retirements will there be? Because both parties have done a bang-up, super great job redistricting and gerrymandering so many of the seats that we have fewer competitive seats than ever before. It's why there really couldn't have been a red wave in 2022. There just aren't enough available seats. I think both parties are waiting to retire. These members are waiting to retire to see who the presidential nominees are and how all that is faring as well.
Yeah. The Republicans did get hurt in New York. I can't believe that New York is going to make the same mistake that they made last time. New York what happened in that election was the Democrats refused to acknowledge the issue of crime. I mean, it was just entirely tone deaf. It was the number one issue in every poll. It was the number one issue in any conversation that you had with anyone. But the Democratic Party I called them crime deniers. And as you and I both know, you can't tell the voters, you can't tell the citizens of this country that what they feel and believe is wrong. Last question. I can't believe that Kellyanne Conway is going to sit out this election. You have a little inkling that maybe you're going to get involved in one of the campaigns?
I've got a great, thriving business doing lots of stuff. I have 4 teenagers that keep me very joyful. And I never say never, but my Fox News contract prevents me from working on a presidential campaign, and I'm very happy at Fox as a contributor, not an employee, as a contributor. But we'll see what happens. I agree with the majority of Americans. Andrew Cuomo, I want Biden and Harris gone. It looks like a majority of Democrats don't want them to run again either. I think they've had their chance. And everything that he said he would do, heal the country, unify the country, make us more prosperous, safe, none of that is true. And I'm one of tens of millions of Americans who believes what she sees with her own 2 eyes, not what they say, not what they tell me to believe. But we'll see how that all unfolds. Those offers are open and on the table at all times, but I've got a pretty good thing going now, and I appreciate you saying that. You know firsthand about the political bug. I'm sure you wish you would jump right in the race now too, given how vulnerable the quote front runner is, and given the fact that the governor of California thinks that we should all become California. But it was so nice to join you in your podcast. Thank you for having me. I guess it was easier than having dinner, because when we had an innocent dinner, we broke the internet. So at least people will learn something and listen here.
I'm going to wager you a meal. I say it's Joe Biden. I say the economy continues to get better. And I say it's the economy stupid. People re-elect Joe Biden. My guess is you're going to say Trump. I'm going to wager you a meal on it, Kellyanne Conway.
I say to Joe Biden, it's the economy stupid. The whole thing works. If you're speaking to him and about him. I think it's Trump. Unless he drops out of the race for some reason that he wants to, which I don't see happening. And if it's a 2-person race, I see it as Trump. If it's a 3-person race, then each of them can get to 43, 44, 45% a little bit more easily. But I believe we're going to have a big change in this country because people see who's in charge. And I'm so confident in my bet that I think you should go back in the kitchen and have to make the meal at whatever restaurant it happens. Deal. Here's the deal. Thanks for having me. God bless.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kellyanne. Thank you. Good to be with you as always.